Hello and welcome to Portugal and the first of our vlogs from our trip with the Airstream Missouri. So this is the first sort of narrative vlog, the sort of first chat I'm doing with you from the Missouri. And you've probably noticed the first thing I've had to do is change out of my favourite shirt because I'm worried I'm going to clash with the curtains. But hey ho, what I thought I'd do in this video today is, as well as going through the journey down from the UK, I want to shake it up a little bit, and rather than just give you more of same, I thought that we would go through some of the processes of how we've prepared for the trip and what we've done on the journey coming down here, because I've had a few people asking for the nuts and bolts of how you would plan for a trip like this and how you would effect it. So this particular video is really aimed at caravanners with no or very limited experience in taking your caravan abroad. Some of what we talk about will obviously apply to people with motorhomes and people who are more experienced in coming abroad with your leisure vehicle, but this particular video is really aimed at people with caravans who are looking to come abroad for the first time. And as well as that, we'll go through some of what we did on the journey down here and apply that to what we're going to talk about. Right, so planning for your trip. When you're planning for your trip, you're going to need three things. You're going to need your ferry crossing, insurance, and your sites. Now, there are many different ways to do this, but if it's your first time, and even if it's not your first time, but you're more experienced, I would heartily recommend that you just keep things simple and you book everything through one club. Now, whether you do that through the Caravan and Motorhome Club or the Camping and Caravanning Club is your personal choice. You might already be a member of one of those clubs or both clubs, but I would heartily recommend that you choose your favourite club, and if you're not a member of either, join one of them and book everything, your ferries, your insurance and your sites, through one of those clubs. That way you've got everything in one place, and for reasons I'll explain in a minute, it keeps life really simple and it gives you the most valuable thing of all, which is peace of mind. Now, on this journey we are doing a little bit of work for the Caravan and Motorhome Club, so because of that we have booked everything through the Caravan and Motorhome Club. Starting off with the channel crossing, both clubs give fabulous discounts on channel crossings. Normally you'll get it cheaper booking through a club than you will booking direct, and there are three things that are going to affect your choice of channel crossing, and they are geography, where you are in a country where you want to go, price of course, and also pet friendliness if you're taking your pet with you. Now, I've made a video already that's gone into all of this, and I will link to that video in the description below because it's a subject in its own right. Because we were in the southeast of England and I was bringing Dougal, we went for the most pet friendly option as usual, and we travelled with good old Eurotunnel. So the next consideration is insurance. Now, it's not a very exciting subject, insurance, but it is pretty essential, especially if it's one of your first trips overseas. We are covered by Red Pennant, which is the Caravan and Motorhome Club's policy. Camping and Caravanning Club have their own policy. Now, where these may be a little bit more expensive than other policies, what you've got to remember is that they are specialist insurance policies for leisure vehicles. So for example, on this trip we actually have breakdown insurance with SsangYong because we're driving a car for SsangYong. However, they can't be sure whether or not the caravan is fully covered or not. I'm not prepared to take that risk, so we've got red pennant. And the great thing is too that because I'm traveling on my own, if anything happens to me, repatriation of the rig, including the caravan, and repatriation of Dougal is covered by red pennant. So that is, to me, peace of mind. I don't have to worry at all about that. Definitely money well spent. Also, don't forget, although I don't know how long this is going to be valid now, you need to take your EU health card. So apply for one of those at the post office if you don't already have one. However, what's going to happen after March if Brexit goes through? Obviously, I really don't know. But if you're going to go before March, get your EU health card through the post office. And obviously if you're watching this after March 2019 and Brexit has happened, then you will need to check the government website to see what you need to do to make sure you're covered for European healthcare. So moving on to the third thing, and that is sites. Now if you are travelling in July and August, it is essential that you book your sites with one of the clubs before you leave the UK. That is because the entire continent of Europe goes on holiday in July and August, and the sites are heaving. And if you don't book, you may find that you won't get a pitch. Between the months of October and April in the winter, very few sites are open. So again, it makes sense to book at least to start with a few sites to make sure that you've got somewhere to go. If you're traveling in shoulder seasons, so roughly from Easter to the end of June and from the beginning to the end of September, just for the month of September, maybe October, then you may want to think about camping checks or an AXI card. Again, you can apply for these, buy these through the clubs. You get a guide and you get discounts on off-peak pitches on these sites. So we use the AXI card when we went abroad in April, May. It worked fairly well. However, be warned, if you're traveling on your own, you may find that you don't get much of a saving either through the AXI card or camping checks. So be aware of that because it's a fixed cost for a pitch with 2 people, electric hookup and so on. If there's only one of you, you may find it cheaper to actually pay for the site directly. However, you may still find the guidebooks really useful for choosing your site, and then you may just choose not to use the card when you get on site. But if you're a couple, you will definitely get some good savings with an AXI card and camping checks off season. However, if it's your first time, don't forget, do book the first few nights so you know where you're going to go, you know where you're staying, and it will just take that pressure off. You'll get into the flow, and after 2 or 3 nights of touring on the continent, you'll think, I've got this licked, and you can carry on with your camping checks or your AXI card. But for the first few nights, even off season, I would recommend, if it's your first time, to book the first 2 or 3 nights so you get into the swing of it, and then you can fly. Well, not fly, but you know, after the drive, whatever. Now then, I've had a question asking me about the different laws and regulations, rules and regulations about towing your caravan through each country. What are the speed limits? What do you need to take? Do you need to take high visibility vests? Do you need to take safety triangles? All this kind of thing. Now, the internet is a great resource, and YouTube and Facebook and forums are wonderful places to get people's opinions on things like sites, ferry operators, places to go. However, when it comes to the law and driving rules and regulations, forget YouTube, forget Facebook, forget the forums. There are only 2 places I would recommend you look for up-to-date rules and regulations about the rules of the road, and they are, once again, our 2 websites, the Caravan and Motorhome Club and the Camping and Caravanning Club. Now, I am lucky enough to know the people behind both technical departments in both clubs. They are professionals. They do this for a job. Their jobs are on the line if they get this wrong. they make sure that the information on those foreign travel websites is correct, it's up to date, and it's relevant to what you'll need. Now, it's all well and good for someone on a Facebook page to say, oh, don't bother with that, we've never worried. But if you suddenly find you're pulled up at the side of the road with a very angry Spanish policeman waving the book at you, what kind of defense is it to say, oh, but it's all right, senor, because someone on a Facebook page said we'd be okay? If you think about it that way, nah, not going to work. So the only two places I would recommend that you look for information and advice on the rules and regulations for travelling through each country are the websites of the Caravan and Motorhome Club and the Camping and Caravanning Club. There are loads of different rules and regulations, loads of different speed limits, and if I did a video about that, not only would it be out of date as soon as I uploaded it to YouTube, but it would go on and on and on, because there are just so many different countries and so many different rules and regulations that really you only need to worry about what concerns you, what's specific to you and your trip. The great news is, even if you're not booking through one of the two clubs, these information pages are freely available to members of the public, and I will link to those pages in the description below this video. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is route planning, and this is a lot of fun. I love poring over maps before I go travelling and getting the hang of where we're going to go. And if you're towing a caravan, and especially if you're on your own, route planning is crucial to making sure you have a stress-free trip. Now, when considering a long journey, you also have to think of what kind of journey you're going to be making, whether it's going to be motorway or non-motorway, and whether you are travelling solo or with a family or in a couple. And I've mentioned this because, for example, if you are travelling solo, like me, and you're going to be using motorways most of the way, I would recommend you didn't go for much more than 300 miles a day. The reason for that is because that will take you about 7-8 hours with breaks, and then when you get on site you've got to pitch up, get the water, have something to eat, wash up, clear up, walk the dog, have a shower, and do all of that and still get adequate rest before the next day's driving. If there are two of you, I would say you could probably stretch that to 400 miles a day, because when you're on site, there are two of you to help with all the chores. You don't need quite as much time before you can get to bed and get a good night's sleep. And of course, if there's two of you and both of you are drivers, both of you can tow the caravan, then you could even push it up to 500 miles a day. But in my estimation, I would say if you're driving motorways, if you're solo, 300 miles a day. If you're not using motorways and you're taking the slow road, I would recommend probably no more than 200 miles a day, because not only have you got a much slower rate of progress, but also you've got sensory overload with all this fabulous scenery and beautiful villages, and it does take a lot longer than you may think. So solo, 200 miles a day off the motorway, 300 miles a day on the motorway. Now, for non-motorway, take the slow road. If you're a couple, I would still say probably no more than 250 miles a day, because, as I say, they are slow and you get the sensory overload. Now, as far as resources on the internet go for planning your route, there are two really great resources. Google Maps is a good one, but my preferred option online is via Michelin, or via Michelin, however you want to say it. And I find that is incredibly good. I'll switch the computer now and show you how I did it. Right, so I'll take you through the thought process of how I planned our trip. Now, the first night we stayed was a campsite called Les Acacias, which is near Tours, and the reason we chose this is because it's about 1 day's drive, 300 miles from Eurotunnel. So if we can see it's on Rue Berthe Morisot in La Ville aux Dames 3770. So on our via Michelin route planner, you can see via michelin.co.uk, we go from Eurotunnel Terminal Eurotunnel, and then we oh, goodbye Dougal. I've already got it here. Berthe Morisot. Now the great thing is too, here you can add, you can see different types of cars. I put luxury, it's just the most expensive. I have it in miles, and then here you can see if you want to avoid motorways, avoid tolls, allow border crosses, and you can tick the one that says Caravan, and then that will give you 3 options. He says 1, 2, 3, and a little map here showing you what those options are. Now the reason I choose via Michelin over Google Maps is because I like Michelin is because I've put the same route here into Google, and while we're talking about this, ignore the driving times completely, because Google thinks you're always going to drive at 80 miles an hour without a break. That is absolute rubbish. So when I was travelling down through Croatia with James, we actually realised that you actually double the amount of time that Google takes, and I've noticed that with the Caravan you certainly add at least 50%. With Google you have options here too. We have it in miles to keep it consistent, but you can avoid tolls or not. So without avoiding tolls, Google's given us this route here, which is the same as this route here, which you can see according to Michelin it would cost you £147, of which £63 are in tolls, 83 in consumption, and takes, according to Michelin, 5 hours 35. Now for an extra 1 hour you can save over £50 or nearly £50 on that route by clicking this second route with Michelin. And what it's done is it's basically taken you off the toll road when you can, when you've got a fast route option. So now we've saved over £50 in tolls, €50 in tolls, sorry. Yet it's only taken about 1 hour longer, and it's actually 25 miles shorter than the original route. Whereas Google, it's only sort of taking us that way. And if you, the only option with Google is to remove all tolls, and then suddenly you don't get to use the toll motorway, where it's going to save you an awful lot of time. See, it's gone up quite a bit here. So Michelin is definitely the smartest tool to use. Another thing I like about Michelin is you can bring up, and if you've got a printer, I mean even better, you can print all this off. It will give you all these detailed directions, and it will even tell you what the road signs say, so you can look out for these road signs, which is brilliant. Now then, if like me you don't have a printer, what you can do is, if you view the road map, I would strongly recommend this, and that is zoom in and make notes of all the names of the towns that you will be going past. So Boulogne-sur-Mer, Le Touquet-Paris-Plage, Abbeville, Neufchâtel-en-Bray, Rouen, Évreux, Dreux, Dreux, Chartres, Châteaudun, Vendôme, and Tours. That way you know, if you get stuck, we know which way to go. Obviously in the car you use the sat-nav as well, but unless you've got a specific sat-nav for caravans, you know, one of these camping sat-navs, good route planning will also help you avoid getting into sticky situations. So another thing to do is to check your route as you go along. Look at the sat-navs. Don't always take what they say as gospel. So if we come here to Châteaudun, you can see what's happening here, and the sat-nav tried to take me the same way. We were coming merrily down this road, the N10, but the N10 carries on going around here like this, and yet for some reason via Michelin and the sat-nav were trying to take me through the centre of Châteaudun. Now at this roundabout here, there was a sign that said itinéraire obligatoire, so obligatory itinerary for vehicles over 3.5 tons, and that was to follow the N10, this bypass. So in the notes that I made, I put when I get to Châteaudun to ignore the sat nav and take the N10, and when I got there, there was this sign anyway saying vehicles over 3.5 tons go around this way. Now my caravan rig is not over 3.5 tons, but I knew I was going to have a far better time going around the town than going through it. So again, go through the entire route piece by piece and look, paying careful attention to your arrival. Now if you're not sure about a road, what you can do is obviously you can come to Google and use Google Earth and see what those roads are like. So this is that road that we didn't like the look of on Michelin, the D47. So you can go right in and have a really close look to see, is this going to be okay? And if you're not sure, just go down and have a little look around. I think, oh yeah, this is going to be a little bit challenging, but it should be okay. So we actually ended up going down this road, and it was okay. But what's very interesting is both Google and Michelin got the turning into the campsite wrong, as did the sat-nav. Because this was a no left turn. We had to come along to this roundabout and go around and go back in again. But obviously, because we'd gone through this little practice run beforehand, it was no big deal. So that's about it as far as planning the route goes. It's really down to preparation, making notes of the cities on the way down, using the Via Michelin and Google Maps. You can use Google Maps too along the way to check for real-time traffic, and just study that route in advance and make sure that you're happy to take your caravan down those roads. Now then, moving on, this is going to be a lot. Sorry, this is such a long video. A little word about personal safety, and that is, you may be saying, well, why am I using sites and not airs? Why am I not pulling up off the road overnight? And that's a really good question. I have used airs. I last used one in Germany, a Rastplatz. But the important thing is really is just to trust your gut. And if you're doing a long trip, you need to make sure that you're well rested. And if you're sort of sleeping with one eye open, to make sure that there's no danger approaching or anything like that, you're not going to sleep terribly well. So again, I would heartily recommend that you book sites for your overnight stops on the way down. Another quick word about safety, and that is, if someone drives past you and points at your outfit and says, oh, stop, you got a problem, don't stop. Similarly, if you get back to your caravan, you've got a puncture and someone helps you fix your puncture, politely decline their offer, lock the car up and call your breakdown assistance. The reason being, people like to get you to pull over on the motorway and then they might rob you. It's very, very, very rare. I've never known it happen to anyone that I know. It's never happened to me, but it's happened. Similarly, you might think it's an unmarked police car. Well, an unmarked police car would have red and blue flashing lights in the grille, maybe in the windscreen. It wouldn't just be an unmarked police car with no flashing lights. So if you're not sure, keep going to the next service area. And also, when I say service area, I mean a service area with a petrol station, not just a parking place, because they might even have friends waiting for you at the next parking place. So as I say, it's never happened to me and it's never happened to anyone I know, but just be aware that if someone even throws something at your outfit to try and get you to stop, don't stop until you get to the next service area with a petrol station, and there are plenty of people around. Similarly, if someone wants to help you change a tyre, refuse their help kindly, shut everything down, lock it down, and call your breakdown assistance to come and change the tyre for you. Now then, when you're staying overnight on a site, as we did on our third site, which was Camping Regio in Sanbilla in Spain, you may be lucky enough to get what I call a pull-through pitch, where you don't actually have to unhitch the car. Some people don't realise that if you don't want to, you don't always have to unhitch the caravan if it's just a quick night stop. Obviously, if the site allows it and the pitch is big enough. What we do to make life as easy as possible and to get off as quick as possible in the morning, all I do is I drop the jockey wheel to take the weight off the back of the car, unplug the electrics from the car, and then plug in the mains electrics to the caravan. It's important you unplug the 13-pin socket to the car, just so you don't cause any conflict with the car's electrical systems when you plug in the mains electrical socket. Other than that, you don't even have to put the legs down if you don't want to. Some people do, just to make it a bit more steady, but again, we don't really bother. You just take the weight off the back of the car with the jockey wheel, and then I don't even bother filling with water. We just use the facility block for washing up and showering, and my little jerry can for fresh water in the caravan. That way, first thing in the morning, empty the loo, wash up and go. Really quick. And finally, tolls. How do I pay tolls when I'm on my own? Well, it's really simple. I stop, I put the handbrake on, put the car in park, get out, walk around the front of the car, chat and pay the toll assistant or use the machine, and then I walk around the front of the car, get back in the car, seatbelt on, first gear, and away I go. Yes, it takes a lot longer than if I had a passenger who could operate the machine, or if I had a left-hand drive car, but so what? It doesn't matter. If you're really smart, you will get one of these little tags before you go, and it means you don't even need to bother about that. You can just drive through one of the tag lanes. Now, the Caravan and Motorhome Club have got a deal on at the moment with tags that work. I think they're French tags, so check out their foreign travel pages. The thing with these tags is you do pay a monthly fee, and you also obviously have to pay sometimes a setup fee and things like this. That might be offset with lower tolls, so you it swings and roundabouts, but it's definitely more convenient if you've got a tag. I'm not organised, I didn't get any tags, and I have to walk around the front of the car, but it works for me. Oh, I see you've deemed to join us again, Dougal. Sorry, I had to change the battery in the camera. We're moving on now to Portugal, and in Portugal they have a great electronic toll system, and the way that works is when you drive into the country, you have an obligatory turn off into the first service area, where you go to a toll machine and you put in your debit card or credit card, and it will register that debit card with your number plate. And then as you drive along these electronic motorways, it will read the number plate and charge your debit card with the toll. It's a great idea, it's very convenient, you don't have to stop. The downside is that there is one of these readers at every single junction, so every little piece of road has a separate toll of 80 cents, €1.10, 95 cents, €1.40, and my bank statement came through with all these dozens of transactions on for all the tiny little bits of road that we've driven along. But it's very convenient. You can, if you want, buy toll cards in advance and then activate them by SMS with your number plate. There are full details of this, or a link to the details of this, of the Camping and Caravanning Club's overseas travel section on the internet, so check that out if you want rather not use your debit card. As well as the electronic tolls, there are still traditional toll booths on many motorways in Portugal, so I still have to get out the car, walk around the front, get in and out. Because I'm not organised, I didn't get a tag. It would have made life so much easier, so much quicker, and especially if you have a disability and getting in and out the car is difficult for you, it's pretty essential that you make sure you've got a tag to save you getting in and out the car to pay your tolls. So that just about wraps this up. I'm sorry it's such a long video, it's a bit heavy in places, but as I say, a lot of people have asked me for some of the ins and outs of how we go around planning trips like this. I hope you found it useful. If you have any hints, tips, or little nuggets that you could want to share with people who might be making their first caravan trip overseas, please leave them in the comments below. I will stress that this video is purely for caravanners. Motor caravanners have it far better than us. Oh yes, and you know it, because motor caravanners can use the airs and they have much greater choice, and it's just far more set up for motor caravanning on the continent than it is in the UK. So hopefully next year in 2019 I will get my hands on a nice motor caravan and do another trip like this, so I can do a similar video for motorhomes and camper vans. But this one for caravans, if you've got any hints or tips, please leave them in the comments below and get talking to each other down there. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, you know what to do. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you don't already. It just leaves me to say from Dougal and from me, thanks for tuning in. There. You excited to be in Portugal, Dougal? Yes? Are you excited to be in Portugal? He never smiles.